Hello, boys and girls, and good afternoon. Usually do these in the morning, but this is afternoon. In fact, 1 o'clock. Look at me. Got a haircut. Welcome to Buckeye Wars. What's Buckeye Wars? I tell you, it's a wonderful series that I've put together of memories that I've had along my journey in life. Most of them, actually nearly all of them, are what it was like growing up in El Dorado Hills, California, back in the 70s and the 80s. Now, this next little snippet doesn't really take place in El Dorado Hills, but it was part of my life back when I was growing up in El Dorado Hills in the 70s and the 80s. I want to talk a little bit about my grandpa, Vern. This man's name was William Vern Painter. And I don't think anybody ever called him Bill or William or Willie or Billy. He went by Vern or Vern. Most people knew him as Vern. And he was a pretty proper guy. Lots of the elders from that era were pretty proper. They had their ways. They did their things, and it's my understanding that he taught school. And prior to teaching school, he, I believe, sold insurance. But I knew him as somebody who had taught shop class as one of the things that he taught. So he knew tools really well. And when I knew him, he was a farmer. And my Grandma Teeny and my Uncle Vern lived in Monmouth, Illinois, on the outskirts of town. And my grandfather and my grandmother owned about 150 acres of prime land. And they grew soybeans, they grew alfalfa, they grew a lot of corn, they grew oats. And growing up and being able to visit the farm when I was a kid was spectacular. My parents were both teachers, so they had the summers off, and they'd pick us up and take us on to Illinois. It was fabulous. My parents are both from Illinois. I was actually born in Illinois. I was born in Elgin, which is up near Woodstock, which is outside of the limits of Chicago. And wow, Vern was an amazing man. And it's kind of funny because they also raised polled Hereford cows. Now, a polled Hereford is a cow. Well, you probably know what a Hereford is, but a polled means that they were bred to not have horns. What? Yeah, damn thing didn't have horns. And so it was fun because I would spend time on the farm, and I was one of the few people that were willing to wake up early with Vern and go feed the cows. Feed the cows? Don't you just let them graze? You do, but not when they're prize cattle like these were. You feed them extra stuff. And I believe it was oats and some, I don't know what it was, but he had bags of stuff in this little bitty shed that we would open the shed and we would take scoops, great big old scoops with a metal scoop, 2 or 3 scoops out of each of the bags, and we would put it in another bag and mix things up. And it was funny. He would look over his shoulder and look around for the cat. He had like a almost wild cat that was a pet. And if he saw the cat nearby, he would open the door and kind of click to the cat, so it would come in And he'd say, I'm going to leave her in here for a bit, and we'll let her out when we come back down the hill. Because he wanted her in there to chase mice in case there was mice messing around with his stuff. But I think what we were scooping was some kind of nourishment, vitamin type special stuff that he could put in the trough, which was a little bit up the hill. And we would hop on this little itty bitty gray tractor, and he called it Gray, or Gray. And we'd get on his tractor, and I was about 6, 7, 8, right in that age range. And he let me drive the tractor. And I got to drive that tractor up the hill, and of course he was sitting behind me, and I was pretty much on his lap, and I more on the seat than on his lap. And I think he worked the pedals, but I'd steer, and we'd go up that little hill, and we'd come to a trough, and we'd pour. Oh, chokes me up. I just love these memories. And he and I would pour the oats that was mixed with the medicine for the cows into this trough. And then he'd look around, and he'd try to find where the cows were, because they were kind of down the hill or up the hill, a little bit around and so forth. And he would call them, almost like they were dogs. But it was funny because he'd kind of find the direction that they were in. He could see them over yonder on the other hill or something. The place was pretty big. And he would yell, sick calf, sick calf, here cow, sick cow, sick calf, sick calf. And by damn, if they didn't come running. And he taught me how to moo. As a kid about 8 years old, being able to moo, and I don't mean moo, I mean the cows looked at me like, what the hell? And oh my God. And so we spent time on the farm. And after we fed the cattle, it was a matter of doing little chores around, whatever needed to be done. And at that time in the summer, his soybeans were looking awesome. But there was a lot of weeds in the field. And he prided himself on being one of the cleanest fields around. I don't know what difference it made, but he liked to have a clean field. And some summers, my cousins would be there too. So it would be my aunt and uncle and my couple cousins, Sam and Kim, and then myself and my little brother Ken. And Kenny, at the time, he was just a little guy. He wasn't so much a part of what I'm going to say. But Grandpa, Vern, would pay us 2 cents a weed to weed his soybean field. I made out like a bandit. One summer I made $72 pulling weeds at 2 cents a weed. We would walk the fields, had a big old bag, kind of a burlap bag, and we'd pull the weeds and we'd throw them in that bag. And he wasn't one to count them, but he gave us each a little notebook. You know those little, I don't know, you can't really see my hand, but those little bitty spiral notebooks that you see people put in their shirt pocket, he'd give us each one of those and a pencil. And we were to keep track of how many weeds we pulled so that he could pay us accordingly. $72 I made one summer. Good God. And For a kid of 6, 7, 8 years old, you get $72 in the 70s or the 80s. I guess it was the 70s still. You're a rich dude. And at the time, staying on the farm, and after doing the chores and so forth, we spent a lot of time inside. And my cousins and I would color. We'd lie down on the floor and we'd grab crayons and we'd color. Or Grandma had a Sears catalog from like the 20s, and we'd thumb through that, or we'd help Grandma cooking in the kitchen, or just little this and that's. Sometimes we would get in the old car that they had. I think it was an old Pontiac, and she had Grandma Teeny had like plastic on the seats of her old car, and you get in the old car and it smelled like old people. And we'd go. Sometimes we'd take little rides and we'd go to like Burlington. That was a trip. We would take a trip into Burlington. Sometimes my grandma had like a doctor's appointment or something or other, and we'd go into Burlington, and that was wonderful. Because you're driving along roads in rural Illinois, and there's corn on both sides of the road, about 7 feet tall. So you can't see nothing but the road and corn. And signs. They had these little signs advertising the different companies that would take the corn for like Grandpa Vern would sell his corn to Kent, the company Kent, and you'd see these signs, Kent corn, along the sides of the road. Never forget stuff like that. And then there was another summer where I got to ride the tractor with him, and we were he bought, no, was it one of his tractors? No, he borrowed a tractor from one of the farmers down the road, one of his friends, and we were harvesting oats, and he drove this tractor, and we're lopping down those oats, and you go through it. It is like a great big old cutting device, like you'd cut your hair with. Almost little things going digga 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 digga, chopping it down, and we're driving along. Outstanding. And then I think another farmer of his had a different truck that came by and picked it up and separated the oats off of the hay. No, straw. Is that right? I think it's straw. You got the oats on the top, and then the stalks, if you will, are straw. So the straw it lays out in the field to dry. And then later on in the summer, after it had dried a little bit, he had another tractor come through and bale it. Now, a team of, what was it? Maybe about 4 or 5 guys, and then the person driving the tractor. But they had a flatbed truck following the tractor, and they were scooping up the hay that was laying there, or not hay, straw that was laying there, and it would scoop it up, and it would bale it, and then spit it out to the guys that were in the back end of the truck, and they would take those bales and pile it up, and once it filled up, they'd go and take them off and stack them wherever their destination was. And they come through, and I was all excited watching this, because I'm in the trailer there at Grandma and Grandpa's farm, and this thing comes by, and they're baling straw. I thought, damn, that's cool as hell. And without really asking, I kind of, well, maybe I did. I must have asked, because I was a kid. I asked if I could join them. Now, you see, these guys were hired hands, neighborhood kids or whatever, but they were older, maybe teenagers, pretty damn strong. And, they were getting paid. And the farmer guy who was driving the tractor, he says, "Come along, Bobby. I ain't paying you, but if you want to come along, you're welcome." And I didn't give a damn. I wasn't looking for money. I wanted to play. I wanted to be part of their crew, see what I could do. So I got to ride on the back of that tractor while they were baling hay, and they give me one of those, if you've ever seen it done or done it yourself, there's like a claw thing, kind of like Dr. Hook would have from Peter Pan, a little curved hooky thing that you use to grab the bale of hay to pull it to the side so it's out of the way, and then you got to pick that big ass thing up and stack it. And I got to do that while I'm riding on the back of this truck. I must have been a little older because I was strong enough that, my arms hurt like hell when I was done, but I could handle it. I did it. And I remember getting to the destination, and he was giving the crew some sodas or whatever, and he, said again, "Sorry, Bobby, I can't pay you." And I'm like, "I don't care. Thank you for letting me join you," and yada, yada. Outstanding. Oh my God. What else? And Grandma Teeny out in the yard close to the trailer. They had I think it was a single wide trailer. It wasn't very big. And attached to the trailer was a porch, pretty decent sized porch, and then a garage where I don't know maybe they did. They kept the car in there, and there was just oodles of tools because my grandfather, like I said, had taught shop class, and he valued tools. And what was interesting is he kept his blades just sharp as razor blades. All of his tools were sharpened and just perfection. And he kept them all clean as a whistle. They all looked old, but new. Does that make sense? And it was awesome. Oh my goodness. And Grandma Teeny, whew, that woman could cook. My God. And she knew that me, little Bobby Peters, loved rhubarb pie. And she would either cook rhubarb pie from scratch right there in the kitchen, or she would have one in the casket freezer where you reach down into it, you lift the lid and you reach down into it, and it holds probably a whole cow, big ass sucker. And she would tell me to go into the shed and go to the freezer and bring back a pie. Go get your pie, Bobby. I made you a rhubarb pie. And she knew that the rhubarb was a little bit too tang for me, so she would make strawberry rhubarb pie. Oh, I'd give my left leg to have one of Grandma Teeny's strawberry rhubarb pies. This video is getting awful long, so I'm going to end it here. But whew, I loved that farm. Grandma Teeny and Uncle Vern.